Catch 'em all.
Hey guys, hey everybody, what's going on? I am live here with Soulsobreezy. Soul, you go ahead and introduce yourself. I'm doing fantastic, man, and yourself? Man, I've never experienced a summer quite this hot in the state of Indiana in my entire life. It has ever gotten to temperatures like this on a like average consistent basis. It's been insane. Dude, who wouldn't? You ain't you when you're hungry or hot. Oh man, I hate getting overheated. Seriously, dude, I keep my house at like 64 degrees most of the time, and that's still only partially tolerable. Oh man. Uh I don't know that I would be able to make it without central air, dude. Like, to tell you the truth, I don't think that I could handle myself without it. I can't sleep when I'm overheated. That's my primary issue. Right? So, let me ask, on your like just off the top of your head opinion, how do you feel about the new Warbringers cinematic that we had this last week with Sylvanas?
While how we feel about Sylvanas and her actions might not change, we get at least a bit more understanding and perspective as to like the reasoning why she does what she does. Then we can call her like a heartless bitch or whatever. But the cinematic was just the capstone to it. I I love the quality of it. The thing that sends me chills is that one part in the cutscene when Delaran Summermoon, the night elf lady that was dying, she said, "You can't destroy hope," and it's just this quiet moment. It's a very quiet moment, and Sylvanas, her actress, says in such a quiet voice, she just says, "Can't I?" And I was like, "Oh," because she was one part like kind of incensed, but at the same time she managed to like totally keep her cool and come off as just so cold and heartless and indifferent to life and everything that I had to like re-listen to that stuff a number of times.
I'm completely with you on that. Like the way that she like whispered that the way she whispered that at the night elf, and then just kind of looked and aggressively forced Nathanos to like send off the demolishers, burn the tree. He looked all, I like the way that you put it in your video. Was was he really scared, or did he enjoy it kind of, you know?
Well, well, when I saw it, I was like, he was just like kind of surprised by it because this seemed to be Sylvanas deciding to burn it. This is not something that he either anticipated or knew about or had planned. But at least at the moment, I don't know at what level he didn't know these things. Like, is it something that Sylvanas and he discussed at one point? And Sylvanas is like, okay, let's, burning this tree thing, let's put that one in the pocket. But I really want to do this because I think this plan's gonna work. And Nathana's like, okay, Dark Lady, I'll kiss your butt. Let's do this. And then when she suddenly like did the about face, it's like he was like looking at his phone at the time. When Sylvanas was
Yeah.
turning around, she's like, "Hey, burn it." He's like, "Wait, what? Sorry, I can't hear you behind like all the sounds of death behind me." And she's like, "Burn it." He's like, "Oh, okay," but he didn't question her or say a darn thing.
No, he
Um,
didn't.
and and that might just be a limitation of what the cinematic allows, because there's always going to be those sorts of limitations since this isn't put into text. But it it speaks enough from the reactions from fans and critics who are really looking for uh, one more bullet point to make Sylvanas seem even more unstable than she is. And not to say that she's not, but it just that seemed like one extra bullet point that didn't seem necessary. He just was like, I think when they produced that, it was more like for Sylvanas to just kind of finally lash out and cut loose and let loose the calm for a little bit, rather than Nathanos being like, "Oh my God, what is she doing? This is not something I expected." I don't think it was really that.
I couldn't. I mean, I wouldn't think in any way that he would necessarily have any fear towards Sylvanas. I mean, it's been stated real clearly that he was the only one that kind of reminded her of life and stuff like that. I think that I would agree with you that it just kind of completely caught him off guard, like throw it like a pitch in from left field, almost knocked him across the head. Like I I feel as though it wasn't even necessarily just like hatred entirely as much as it was pure spite. Like she just the way that that night elf like told her that her plan failed, kind of disrespected her in a way, was kind of like, "Oh, really? Well, fuck you. Your tree's going to be ash now. Where's your hope? It's
part
an
of me
ocean."
thinks that part of me thinks that even though I was talking just earlier about her raging out and all that stuff, part of me thinks that she just is totally numb to life itself, because she was born, she was alive for a while. I don't recall off the top of my head how old she is, but I'm gonna guess that she's older than she looks. And then she died. She lived as a banshee-like person, and then she got her body back, and now she's whatever the heck you want to call her now, but she's lived as an undead person. And for her, I think that she's been around long enough to understand, or at least to come to her own conclusion, that life doesn't mean anything to her. Life is just, it's like age. Age is nothing but a number. Life is just a label, because you can be technically dead and you can still walk around as a walking corpse, no problem, because Sylvanas has the agency to change that state. She can make sure that your body keeps moving around and doing stuff. Maybe you'll be under her control. Maybe you'll be granted like her semblance of a free will. Cool, whatever. But the idea that she like hates life, I think I can definitely see where people are coming from on that, but I think it's a little bit too strong. I think she is just wildly indifferent to life. She doesn't even acknowledge it anymore.
Life is so far past her time. There's just no that she doesn't care to acknowledge it anymore.
Yeah, and this is on top of her being an elf. So she
Yeah,
already
right.
had the mindset of, yeah, I'm gonna live like however the fuck long I want. And now she has the kind of ability, or at least the opportunity, to live forever. Because as far as she is concerned as an elf, she can live forever. So to her,
Stop.
it's no different.
Stop, Diesel. Um, Silver Ram in chat actually made a really good point. He said, "Doesn't she say life is a curse?" I feel like she might say life is a curse, like specifically for the reason that it maybe it bogs you down, like the cold, calculated way that she and the Forsaken function. Maybe in her eyes is a much higher level of efficiency, kind of, because they can get done whatever the fuck they want to get done, and there isn't anybody that's going to stop them for any reason. There's no emotion that's going to hold them back. There's no anything. They don't have that kind of luxury to them. Their life is a numb, cold existence in its entirety.
She definitely seems to look down on life. That life is
She's
a curse. It's a shackle. It's a ball and chain. It's something that holds you back. It's a feeling that to her is no longer necessary because, well, she's dead and all that. But because if you don't have to worry about whether you live or die, and you just count on yourself being, I don't know, repaired or rebuilt, or in like Nathana's case, put into a different body, um, life is to her like a sort of curse. Um it's a limiter because there are those that worry about life, and you can counterpoint this very easily too, that those who are alive, they live those fleeting lives, they want to live their lives to the fullest, yada yada yada, alliance, justice, whatever. But the idea of life being a curse, I definitely see that as Sylvanas just kind of looking down on others um, who are alive. Not because she hates them, not because she's jealous, but she just lost feeling for it altogether.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I I mean, you can definitely tell that there are some Forsaken that still have like they still have their wants and their needs, things that they felt like they never completed in their past life. Of course, in the Before the Storm novel, we get a nice description of that from I can't remember the name of the record keeper, the Lorderon record keeper, but he was caught smuggling some of his books from his past life in. And Sylvanas said that was your past life. Now you live a life for the Forsaken. I thought that was a very, very like telling line. I felt like that had a lot of significance to it.
As in, like, she's wants to like enslave her people, or
I
like,
don't know if it's necessarily to like enslave her people as much to have a much stronger control than she wants to portray with her, free will under the Banshee Queen. You can choose to serve me or choose to do your own thing, but in reality, of course, they're going to die if they do their own thing one way or the other.
well, I don't think that's entirely true, and I haven't done. I'll be honest, I haven't done enough research on this, but I mean, there are Forsaken who are not. I'm gonna say there are undead who are not living in the Undercity, who are acting independent. I mean, heck, the champion of the Horde. If you play as an undead, you aren't you are kind of Forsaken, but you also act on your own too. You act under your own agency. I mean, would Sylvanas be all that cool with letting one of her Forsaken rogues all of a sudden be the leader of the Uncrowned, who leads both humans and undead and all sorts of other races? I don't think so. I think that I think that some fans have taken it a little bit too far about Sylvanas having a "you're either with me or you're against me" sort of mentality. It's more like you're either with me, or you do your own thing, or you're against me. And taking this back to like the Before the Storm book, when Sylvanas executed the members of the Desolate Council, yeah, it was a pretty extreme call for her to decide that everyone there who was present, who even remotely participated in the event, ended up getting killed. But to her, it was just like them all changing their faction affiliation, and she's like, "Oh, screw it, you guys are done." But anyone who just wants to walk away and do their own thing, I don't think Sylvanas has a problem with that, as long as they don't join the alliance.
Right? Because then, I mean, I guess if you look at it as going off and doing your own thing versus like directly affiliating yourself with their enemy, that could
In
be
front of her face.
definitely, yeah, in front of her face. That could definitely be seen as rather treacherous. I mean, I couldn't think of any kind of leadership that would think that that's a good thing. At
It's like,
least in.
oh, I guess they wanted to go away. Well, that's too bad. I mean, I could see more merciful people such as Anduin, who are like, hey, you know what? They're leaving. What do we do? Do we just let them walk? He would definitely think about it. Do I let them walk? Do I order someone to cut them down now? Is one of my other fellow faction leaders going to cut them down for me without my say so? So that way my hands are clean, or what? So I can see Anduin thinking about it, but I can understand why Sylvanas acted a bit more brash about it.
I mean, definitely, especially, and then because the way that I see it is like if the Desolate Council specifically, with the kind of almost level of power that they had within the Forsaken people, if they of all people were to, well, I guess they of all dead people were to switch sides, then that could have some very potentially damaging repercussions toward her faction in its entirety.
Yeah, you lose your people, then what do you have, right?
You got nothing.
It's just like with Kalia Menethil, with her kind of sort of wanting to retake Lorderon and get her seat back on the throne. But then do you have the people? I don't know. Like that thought hasn't quite been explored yet.
Now, I want to ask you this and chat this. What are your first thoughts with this old soldier cinematic? What do you think about that?
Um, I'm glad that that troll has a name now.
Right?
Um,
Instead of just Zappy Boy.
I'm so not a meme kind of person, and I even needed to have someone explain to me like on stream explicitly what the whole like long boy, zappy boy, and all that stuff means because I didn't know, and maybe it's just because I'm old, or maybe because I ain't hip and I don't care, or whatever. But I just never connected with that. And so my first thing was and it's like that it took a tweet from I think Taryn Gregory to reveal what his name was. Uh Zakhan, I believe his name is. He didn't introduce himself. He only talked about, oh, my father's name is such. And then I thought to myself, okay, what's your name though, buddy? And I thought that was funny. But the whole thing with Old Soldier, it was just sad. It's a sad cinematic that makes Sarfang look, it makes it empathize, but at the same time for me it also underlines him as a volatile and maybe unreliable leader of the horde. um I think part of the reason why this is kind of a spoiler, but at the beginning of the battle for Azeroth, he gets a chance to return to the horde after being captured, and he doesn't. I think a part of that helps to underline his weakness, and I think he wanted to stay away because he's like, hey, you know what? One, I don't support Sylvanas in what she does, but two, I don't think I got the chops to do this anymore, to lead the horde.
I think that was the exact thing that they were trying to portray with that. Like you can definitely tell with all that dude, with all the Sourfang's been through, especially with the whole the war on Courage when he was the leader of the Might of Kalimdor, um, into losing his son and then having to fight his son in the end. All he's ever, on top of that, the fact that he was a veteran of the first, second, and third wars, the dude's just seen a whole lot. He's done, and then now him already disagreeing with the way Sylvanas is handling things. I guess that's a very telling point that he couldn't ever be war chief. I don't think that Sourfang, especially after seeing the way that Blizzard forcefully portrayed how exhausted he is of doing what he's been doing, that he's like irritated that he hasn't been able to get his warrior's death that he deserves. I'm thinking that Sourfang just kind of wants to finally retire.
I think so too, and it seemed, uh, I'm gonna let my thoughts wander, but it seemed pretty extreme that he ended up going suicidal over the whole thing. Right before, right at the dawn of the battle, he's gonna go out there, not just and not simply roll over and die. He has, as far as I recall, he has his axe in hand and he's about to throw down.
Yeah, he was
He
intending on it by the seam of it.
Yeah, yeah. So he's going to cut down as many folks as he can, or he would try to, I don't know, maybe challenge Anduin or some other faction leader to Makara and see see what he can do there, knowing that even whether he got it or not, he wouldn't be coming back. He would be coming back in a bag, um, at worst. But it just made me, I don't know, it kind of made me de-elevate him as a character. Not that I don't like it, not that I like him less, but he seems lesser than what he was. The memes that defined him in the days of yore, those are long past him. He's an old man now. And I'm a little surprised that he doesn't take a less active but still active role like Etrig, like just as an old guy, an advisor to the war chief, because Etrig still he still performs that role pretty well, and I don't see why Saurfang doesn't not so much hang up his axe, but just leave it sheathed and kind of stand in the background these days.
I think that's a very insightful point on it, and it seems like you and Apocalypse have a pretty similar point. First, let's start with what Silver Ram said. I think it portrayed the old and new horde, and I doubt Sourfang will be war chief. I mean, that's exactly what I said too. Apocalypse said, "I love the old soldier cinematic. It was so beautifully animated. The actual content of definitely gave much more of an insight into Varrock's intentions and reasons as to why he stays in the stockades. I mean, it really does. Like that puts a lot of the perspective of what's going on in his head. That's why it just seems like he was giving up because the dude is kind of giving up. I mean, he's done. He's done with the battle. I think he's just over war in itself.
I think he's definitely trying to find himself because at one moment he's about, he the way I see him letting go of that necklace that his son wore, I saw that as him saying goodbye to his son. So he lets that go, he walks off, puts on the ash paint, he's ready to rumble. He's gonna die. And then Zakan comes in, somehow talks him into returning. So okay, cool. But then Sarfang comes back. If we get to the cinematic, Sarfang gets arrowed a couple times, ain't looking so great. Sylvanas does her battle cry that reinvigorates him. He's ready to charge in, fights, and then we get to the battle for the Undercity. From there, um, he starts to question things again when Sylvanas starts using the blight to both attack and defend from the alliance. He's defeated, he's captured, and then he is where we last see him. So he's having this whole roller coaster of motivation going on inside him, and I'm really curious when's the next dip or bump that we're going to see from him.
I'm wondering if there even could be a dip from the point that he's at. Like the only dip lower than him just rolling over and giving up, and or almost running into and charging into, or potentially, trying to challenge Anduin or Gin to a Makara. It just seems like maybe it would have to be a bump if they were to progress it. I don't see very much lower coming out of it because he already is kind of suicidal about the matter at this point. He's already kind of trying to force his warrior's death, which I also can see is another reason for him to keep charging in. When Sylvanas gave her Banshee's wail, for the Horde, it reinvigorated him to have that like honorable death potentially, in my opinion, and or to try to carry on, especially after seeing the way that whatever Zappy Boy's name is, I cannot remember for some odd reason.
Zakan?
Yeah. After seeing the way that he approached the situation with him, then Sylvanas totally spits on that again by using the chemical weapons, which, as you and Bob very effectively put, are for some reason not okay when all kinds of other things that shouldn't be okay are definitely okay.
Details, man, details.
Details. All details, dude.
It really I'm trying to remember, and I'm pretty sure that people are going to bring this up if they haven't brought it, yeah, I'm sure they brought it up already, but we're gonna hear a lot more of it. We're gonna re-listen to the words that Sylvanas says to Saurfang regarding his son. Where she says, oh, you can stay out here and die, and then I can raise you up. I'm paraphrasing here, and or you can see your son again. And I'm pretty sure that's going to resonate with players who play through the scenario tomorrow. Oh, and I don't know if you saw, there was a Wowhead article that just came out just a little bit ago from a Blue Post where they had said that regardless of whether you pre-ordered BFA or not, you will in fact be able to play through the Battle for Lorderon scenario tomorrow, which I think is
Ooh,
cool.
now I'm excited. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
yeah, yeah. So everyone's going to be participating in that one. I do have a bit of speculation as to what's going to go down with Sourfang. Now, it's not a complete thought. This is something that just kind of came off the top of my head, but I have a feeling that the Maghar are going to play into what Saurfang eventually does. I think that the leader of the Maghar orcs is going to somehow maybe uh, be some sort of influence for Saurfang, one way or another, to spur him into taking some sort of action. I don't know what, but I have a feeling that he's going to run into them somehow.
Hmm.
I mean, because this is, I'm going like headcanon now, but I can kind of see Anduin just letting Saurfang go. He just lets him go in the hopes that Saurfang will kind of do what Vol'jin did, stage his own revolution, hopefully a bloodless revolution, but a revolution nonetheless, to try and get rid of Sylvanas himself by by rallying the people and um, getting them behind Saurfang's back to end the madness, to end Sylvanas's regime, something like that. But I think the Maghar are going to affect that campaign if it in fact goes that route.
It would be really interesting to see the story play in for another for a a new allied race, but a old race in the game to to have them come in and get behind Sourfang like that and to support him in trying to stop Sylvanas and the crazy shit that she's up to. I think that would be a crazy story twist.
Makes me wonder though, what if they don't? What if the Maghar doesn't side with Saurfang and they just be like, "What are you talking about, dude? This is your war chief. You stick with your war chief, even when they make the worst decisions, because you need to trust that the war chief, you need to trust that the war chief looks out for the horde, for the rest of like their clans or whatever kind of parallel that they want to use. That yeah, you can have your sense of honor and all that stuff, but you got to listen to your war chief. So I'm wondering if that
What's
might
up, zombie?
play in at all. I know
How
I'm
you doing,
going
man?
like pretty far down the rabbit hole at this point, but stuff like that is fun to think about.
Man, that's the best part. I mean, you and I had a little back and forth tweet with that yesterday. What is There's no such thing as speculation if we got all of the details in game and in cinematic. They need to leave a little bit for you to question. There
Yeah,
has to be.
yeah, yeah. That goes into like the whole idea of sharing media across or sharing the story across different media, cutscenes, different looking cutscenes, books and comics and that sort of thing. I think it's cool to have these different bits of media to analyze and pore over and explore, um, and debate about, and be wrong about. I think that's part of the fun of discovering all there is to this really big universe.
Apocalypse said you can never go far enough down the rabbit hole. This dude is one of the. He's got the biggest tinfoil hat in all of existence, man. I'm telling you, once I finally talk him into trying to start creating content, because he's real good at it. He's come on stream with me a couple of times now. Watch out, Pyro. Apocalypse is coming. This
I
dude's
can
got
get.
some
I
theories.
admit. I admit. I can go deep, but I limit myself. I don't want to. I don't want to take that space away from folks that are into that. I'll stick to the surface and and go like one or two levels in. I'm not gonna take it all the way because then I mean I already go kind of far enough with predicting like, okay, this is what I think is gonna happen in the end of this expansion, or like what the next expansion is gonna be. This is all this fun stuff to think about. Let's speculate, people. But I try not to take it too seriously because 90% of the time I'm wrong, and I got to embrace that. So I try not to spend too much energy going those routes.
Man, I've seen you go pretty far down the rabbit hole in some of your videos. Oh boy. So, since you brought that up, where do you think the end of the expansion is going to take us?
Let's see. I've been mostly on record with saying that we are going to have our backs to the wall, that the Azeroth World Soul is going to be in super, super critical danger. Either it's corrupted or it is very close to being corrupted. And like I said, we're gonna have our backs to the wall, and part of like the last raid encounters is going to be that sort of setting where we're the last line of defense and the enemy's coming, and we gotta stop it before the end of the world happens. As for who it is, it's hard to say. Like part of me wants to think that it is either or representatives of the void, such as Ilaria, or even the light, like Terralion, because I've been on record with talking about how there is a conspiracy of the light and how the light has its own plans to not corrupt the world soul, but light forge it, light bound it, or whatever the heck you want to call it, because they too have their own agenda to cleanse the great dark and return everything into like light and harmony and all that stuff, which still sucks for everyone else because they might end up dead anyway. But that's kind of what the light's going for, and it's going to be up to us to stop it.
Well, I mean, the light definitely has kind of a shady agenda to a certain extent. I mean, Zira molested Illidan, or at least tried to molest Illidan. Like when you go through the Lightforged Draenei starter quests, and you're dealing with Tapartos's annoying ass, you have to expel all doubt, all fear. But the problem is you don't expel all of your doubt and all of your fear. There's so much evidence of Terralion having fear of the direction that Ilaria is going, which specifies that the only fear, and in my opinion at least, it specifies that the only fear and doubt that they're having you expel to become Lightforged is fear and doubt toward the light directly, which just kind of makes it a little bit more shady to me, because then if they're forcefully expelling that fear and doubt from you, then you're not gonna have any kind of question for the crazy kind of creepy shit that they're doing, i.e. molesting Illidan.
Without having played through the Lightforged Draenei questline, that's a pretty interesting thought. That the whole process of being Lightforged is indoctrinating yourself, and you know, pretty much pretty much rebuilding yourself to have no doubt towards the light, towards your masters, and all that. I find that to be a pretty fascinating thought.
I had I hadn't even done the Lightforged Draenei quest line until, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, because I didn't really have much of an interest. But my sister decided to start playing again, so I started. So I was playing with her a little bit, and she wanted to play on Alliance. So I was like, well, I guess I can start a priest or something. And I just went through and did the quest line because I had the proper rep, and it was very strange. It was a very strange quest. First of all, Tapartos needs to learn that Tapartos doesn't have to say his fucking name every time that he starts a sentence, and he doesn't need to speak in the third person, because it makes it 10 times more annoying.
Ha.
Oh, it kills me. It's really interesting the way that they go into detail, like about his past and stuff like that too, because there was a specific instance that really pushed me into my thought process of the fact that you're expelling specifically doubt and fear in the light, as like the light itself, and not in very much else. You still have doubt and fear in any other force but the light. Is he was a kid, and like you're going through his memories to help him fight off his fears, and he was a kid on in a mockery, and he was getting bullied by some of the other Draenei children, and he was praying to the light to help him, but he didn't get very much help by the seam of it. They kept picking on him, and after that, he had to fight. I can't remember if it was like a manifestation of fear or doubt, whichever one it was. You had to fight that to move on to the next part of the scenario. I think that really spoke kind of a million words by itself.
Well, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, so yeah, there are obviously elements I haven't explored myself, since I don't play. I haven't been playing any Alliance characters, like haven't done it in years, since like BC, I think. So this will be an interesting thing to explore as we get into like the whole Maghar storyline, and we get to discover what happened with the Draenei over in AU Draenor. What's going on with Turalyon? What's he thinking after 1,000 years of war to save his planet? He comes back, and shit's still the same. Nothing's changed. It's not exactly orcs versus humans anymore, but it's still a lot of orcs among other races going against his people, the alliance, his people and the alliance. So I'm curious, like if at some point he's just gonna snap because he could be like, dude, this is like frustrating as shit. I did all this work, I tried to save everyone, and like absolutely nothing has changed.
Nothing whatsoever. Um, oh my gosh, dude. Apocalypse said the Lightforge Draenei storyline is truly fucked up. You have to go into someone's soul to destroy the part of them that resists the light. Shamikaze said resistance is futile. Apocalypse then after that had to go to Partos because I mentioned the fact that he has to speak in the fucking third person, and you hear his name like a million times in this 10-minute quest line.
So is that where the whole meme comes from? Because I keep
Yes.
seeing that name, and I'm
Oh, it's
like,
so
I don't know
annoying.
who this is.
Oh my god, dude. It made my head hurt. Like, it was so irritating. But I was still really intrigued. Like, it's almost like they did that to piss you off and distract you from the really fucked up things that are going on in the background of the scenario, you know? Almost to make it harder to notice.
Well, shoot, now I'm tempted to boost a. 'Cause I still have one more 120 boost or 110 boost. Maybe I should do it and experience the questline for myself, and it'll be one more thing for me to add to the conspiracy of the light theory.
It's definitely tipped me off pretty heavily. And as far as I could, there was a really big forum post about it too. It got rather extensive. Everybody was like, "The fuck is this?" It's well before anybody had like particular questions of how evil the light was. Like this was the kind of lead in after Zira raped Illidan. This was the lead in to this conspiracy to a really big level. It made a big difference in the speculative community. I actually think Accolon might have done a video on it if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if it was Accolon or not, but somebody else did. And I had noticed that myself. And then when I went and did the quest line, I was like, holy shit. Like, what is this? It just felt really, really tyrannical to me. You have no other option, no other direction that you can go in. Zombie Crazy Leg said, I mean, this is why you don't put all your faith in one tool. You don't let your power drill control you.
I to be honest, I really hope. I don't like relying on my theories and hoping that they're right, but I really hope that I'm right about the whole conspiracy of the light thing because I really want to see a thing. I want to see a campaign called the Radiant Crusade. One of my guildmates made that up, and I'm like, oh, that sounds so cool. I want to see that. Like some WoW patch 8 point something, 9 point something, the Radiant Crusade, and you have like forces of the light that are just flipping out and going ape shit and be like, no, everyone is needs to be purified and all that sort of thing. That'd be cool.
Whichever one of your guildies came up with that is a genius. I like the sound of that. I
I
really
like
like the
it.
sound of that. The Radiant Crusade. Shit, dude, that's got a ring to it.
Yeah, it rolled off the tongue really well. Like I'm still stuck on Conspiracy of the Light, but it's too many syllables. I like the Radiant Crusade.
Apocalypse said hashtag bring back Galakron. He had a really solid theory about Bolvar. One of his end goals, especially with kind of manipulating the Ebon Blade into serving the Lich King again. He had a really, really interesting theory, which Apocalypse, feel free to correct me if there's any points that I miss or get incorrect. But basically, that Bolvar was going to raise Galakron, kind of the way that Arthas raised Syndragosa. Now, if you could imagine Galakron being a fucking undead, super powerful frost worm that's like the size of 100 fucking dragons, I think that would be a rather large threat. Syndragosa
Wouldn't
almost seems like a bitch in comparison.
wouldn't that effectively destroy Dragonblight?
Pretty much. But is that necessarily a problem? Look what they did to Azeroth in Cataclysm.
Yeah, yeah, I can live with it. I mean, I just don't remember like if is all of Galakron's bones like put together. Like, can we? I mean, I can see that. I can see him coming back together, but then what would be the reason? Really?
That could bring a lot more like relevance to the Bolvar story. That could almost lead to a situation of another expansion by itself, because Galakron was such a massive threat that's the entire that's why the dragon aspects got their power in the first place, was because they banded together to take down this like ultimate threat. So if you were to bring him back with more power and undead and harder to kill, that could bring some serious relevance back to that story, and could even potentially, with the damage that he would cause raising up out of the ground, that could even potentially help give them an opportunity to revamp Northrend and even give us another form of a Wrath of the Lich King expansion.
Yeah, but I'm focused on why.
Because fuck life, and he wants to kill everybody so that he can raise them to serve him.
That's it, huh? I
Yeah,
guess I guess I
same
guess I haven't
reason that Arthas
experienced.
did it.
I guess I haven't experienced enough of the Death Knight campaign. I mean, I can kind of see it, but I wonder, like, is that much of Bolvar gone at this point, or by the time we get to that point, is so much of Bolvar just gone? And it goes back to the original question that I had. It's like, why must there always be a Lich King? Why not just deal with the Rising Dead for a little while, and then once they're all gone, then they're gone? Why kick the bucket down the road or kick the can down the road?
That's a really good question. I've wondered that myself. Like, who is it that said that there must always be a Lich King? Maybe it was Bolvar, who was already getting whispers from Yogg-Saron. Like,
Actually, it was the spirits of King Ternus that said this.
oh, you're right. I actually think that spirit might have been like kind of a trick representation from Yogg-Saron, as Blizzard stated that you know they really ineffectively described the really close relationship between Yogg-Saron and the Lich King during Wrath. I feel like there was some serious ties in there that nobody ever really understood. Because if Yogg-Saron were to say that, then that could give him an opportunity to have another puppet like that, and another like kind of Court of the Damned.
That actually kind of pissed me off. Although, to be honest, everything about the old gods pisses me off. I detest their very concept and the whole idea of servants of the old gods and whispers and secret agents and all that shit. To me, it kills. It creates too much unnecessary speculation. I mean, it could. I mean, that could be it. This could be what's going on. That somehow, the old gods had taken the guise of the spirit of King Ternus, and they said what they had to say so that they can keep a Lich King up and going. Um, Shoot, off the top of my head, uh, that spirit of King Ternus might have been like some form of like Ner'zhul, who was like, no, don't just destroy it. Don't destroy us. Keep us alive so that I can somehow, so I can buy more time
Oh
to.
shit! I didn't think about it that way. That's a really good point.
Ta-da.
Oh my goodness. And that's a little bit more realistic than the Yogg-Saron one, in my opinion. that's a little bit harder to poke some holes in. Because why the hell wouldn't the soul of the Lich King, the original Lich King, entrapped in that helm, why wouldn't he try to manifest himself? Though I
Uh,
do wonder how he did that, unless his soul is also bound to Frostmourne, which I think it is, because Frostmourne is how he enslaved Arthas in the first place, right?
might be talented. ChaosLance has pointed out that Uther also said it, but Uther also said it in the presence of Frostmourne. So for all we know, that could be anyone too. And it's like, how do you know, Uther? What makes you so smart? What who when did you write the wiki article that said there must always be a Lich King and all that? Um,
Right?
it's like, hey, Paladin, let's send the Paladin down there to get Uther to clarify what he said, those number of years ago. What the fuck do you mean there must always be a Lich King? Why don't we just deal with it, Uther, if you're so freaking smart?
I think I think Chaos made another really good point. Uther Lightbringer said there must always be a Lich King first. Uther's tomb is revamped. Come on, guys. And yep, Ner'zhul's soul is bound to Frostmourne also, which makes a very, very good point on what you just said. Aw, oh, damn it. Now I don't know.
Oh, mind blown, because we also got to think about, like, who
My
was
head hurts now.
when the Lich King armor was made, the helm of domination, and I don't know what the rest of the armor is called. Lich King suit. When Lich King's threads were made, they were made by dreadlords. So was there anything in there previously, or was Ner'zhul the first soul thing to be embedded in there by Kil'jaeden? Was there something already there? Did Kil'jaeden put something in there in its place, or what? Because we see this recurring theme of whoever gets sucked into the Lich King's armor eventually, gets evil and wants to spread, undeath and stuff all over the place because it's fun. Uh, but where does that core behavior come from?
That's a really good question.
Ooh-wee-oo.
Oh my goodness. My head almost hurts a little bit thinking about all this.
See why I don't go too far down the rabbit hole? It's because
Yo, because you're good at it? Holy hell. Like, how'd you. I don't know. I don't know what's up from down at the moment. I can't even tell.
but it's not my space.
But, Zombie, when Arthas had control of the Helm of Domination, I would agree with you. I would agree with you. But when Arthas had control of the Lich King and he was trying to destroy all life on Azeroth actively, he wasn't able to do it, even though that was the goal that he set for the Scourge, was to destroy all life. So if that was the goal that he set and he couldn't even do it at his full power, at his full potential, and we as champions were still able to, like, finish the job and take him out, then why wouldn't we be able to defeat them if they didn't have a source to continue rising under the mindless banner of the Scourge?
I still think that I only halfway disagree with Zombie. I think that with a considerable cost to life, that yes, the Scourge can be totally and finally defeated. We have the Vindicar now. Just fucking, light laser everybody and all that
Right?
from the air.
Just do a zombie purge, dude. Take them all out. Nothing left. I mean, paladins are kind of already the ultimate weapon against the Scourge, supposedly.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely the most effective tool. They dispel the Scourge, so that makes them effective. In the end, a good old bludgeon to the head will do an adequate job too.
Good old bludgeon to the head. Apocalypse said, even without a Lich King, people will still be dying of other means. Therefore, souls need to be, ferried by the Lich King. What? How are you trying to put that? Kind of ensuing that he's the Grim Reaper of sorts, maybe.
No, that's not entirely something that I buy into either, because the Lich King, if that were the case, then the Lich King is just a knockoff. because the Lich King just kind of ripped everything off from Odin. I see
right?
Odin as the. I still need to make a video about this, but I see Odin as like the Reaper of WoW, because he's the one that made the Valkyr. He's the one that set up the whole system of bringing souls um, up to Skyhold, or you know, Odin's house, whatever that's called, and all the drama that caused Helya to rise to power, and she made her own version of the realm too. But ultimately, like those sorts of influences traveling to the Shadowlands, there's probably a natural component to it when you just die. But if there was a system that was made, Odin made it.
That is a very fantastic point. Though it makes me wonder, like, if he's in control of the souls of all, or just the souls of, intended champions. Like,
From the
if he would
looks of
have the
it,
same influence over a civilian as he would, like, a Vrykul warrior or, like, us as champions, for example.
now it seemed pretty clear that Odin's particular to mostly the Vrykul, and and creating his
Oh,
army, the Valazars, that they can defend against something. Sound familiar? Lich King. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing. It's just,
Apocalypse made a really good point, man.
what do you say?
And so you have Odin, and Helya ferrying them to heaven or hell, or the halls of valor or Helheim, and you have the Lich King holding those in purgatory, as it were, to kind of damn and jail their souls, because he does have a very specifically mentioned title of the Jailer of the Damned. I mean, that was a very good point. ChaosLance also said Odin made Valkyrs and Arthas made Valkyrs as well. I don't think Arthas made Valkyrs. I think he just had the ability to enslave them via the Helm of Domination.
I Off the top of my head, it took him a while, but he eventually did learn how to make them himself.
Oh,
There is a Vrykul village in Icecrown where they do the same thing. They're raised and trained and all that stuff to become Valkyr.
Chaos said, "Yep, he did in Utgard Pinnacle. He is right. I totally forgot about the Spala Sorrow Grave fight. That's a very good point." Atish said, "Bob is the next Lich King." By the way,
Ha!
what's going on, Atish?
But as for like the whole system of Odin does this, Helly does this, Lich King does that. Um, None of them are indigenous to like that sort of cosmic level of activity. I guess what I mean is that uh, there was a time before the Lich King. How were souls treated back then? And this is a bit more dubious, but there is kind of a time before Odin and Helya. Um,
Well, yeah,
so how
before the
were
Titan
souls
Keepers were
treated?
constructed.
Yeah, yeah, but it's a little dubious to make that assertion though, because before that it was just like old gods, elementals, and Titan forged. It was the descendants that eventually, um, you know, got all messed up with the curse of flesh, and then everything went that route. So we don't quite know how souls were treated back then, because we don't know what races, we don't entirely know what races were alive at the time. But at least with reference to the Lich King, there was a time before the Lich King, so the system seemed to have worked out until before he came by. Why can't it work out after? Did the Lich King just break, um, forever break the harmony of Azeroth? And if so, how exactly?
That, oh man, if he did break that cycle, then that may have to. Now I'm wondering if there's a connection between Helya and the Lich King specifically, or Odin and the
Not
Lich King. Like how tight a story-driven connection could be there.
Well, the connection is definitely with the knowledge of creating the Valkyr. So I'm wondering if eventually we're going to see some sort of confrontation between Odin and the Lich King. Odin might be like, "Hey, hey, Lich, supposed Lich King, you made you broke copyright and all that stuff, so I'm gonna jack you up. And then they start fighting, and one of them loses. Let's pretend Odin loses or something like that. Or we could even, but it also leads to other questions like,
He said you broke copyright.
why doesn't Sylvanas pursue this route? Like one of her big things is, I want to make Valkyr. Okay, cool. One thing that she can do is somehow acquire a power at the same level of either Helya, Odin, or the Lich King. And then she can create her own Valkyr, and then she can reproduce and go nuts as much as she would like to. So there are a lot of threads that there, there are innumerable threads that we can explore as to what are we going to do to explore death in the Warcraft universe. And notice that I haven't said jack shit about the light and the void, because I at least am a big skeptic on the whole idea of, oh yeah, the undead, they're like the enemy of the light and the void or something like that. That I haven't really seen a lot to support like some sort of confrontation of that level.
I don't necessarily know. It would be so cool to see a confrontation to that kind of level. Like, I think that would be really awesome. I don't know necessarily that they're. Blizzard could go in that direction. Like, realistically, it could happen. But how would they get to that point, is my question. Like, what kind of wild, crazy bounds would they have to take to bring the story to a progression like that?
I don't know. I mean the few threads that we have involve Kalia and the possibility of servants of the light raising their own brand of undead. Okay, cool. Go ahead. I guess the thing to explore would be if other forces found out. Like if Sylvanas found this out, what is she gonna do? She's gonna be like, huh? Well, fuck. I'm gonna find myself some Naru now. And I'm going to enslave them. And maybe they can make some. Maybe they can make me some undead, and hopefully they'll be like compatible with the ones that my Valkyr made. Or maybe I can use the Naru to make Valkyr or some craziness like that. So there's
Huh.
some things that you can uh, that can happen there. One thing that doesn't make sense to me is the whole idea of the undead being like resistant to whispers. That's something that I know that a lot of folks have been relying on for like the whole, oh, the undead is the enemy of the void, but the void whispers take a while to take hold. And in the meantime, if you're at least conscious of it, then you can find the person doing that whisper and, put a bullet in their head, and then those whispers go away. It's not like it happens overnight. Although, if you have any examples, you or chat, I'd be happy to hear them.
Chaos said, Soul, I'm gonna hire you to throw me ideas. Zombie said, Soul, we prefer the term light based flesh golems.
Whatever.
And Apocalypse said, Alexstrasza the Lifebringer prolongs life or even restores it. Hence the unique position of Bolvar, who is not dead or undead, but is capable of being the Lich King. Hmm. If Sylvanas could get a blessing from Alexstrasza, she would have what she needs to without. Okay, I see that. I see what you're saying. The question is, could Sylvanas somehow become a Valkyr?
I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with the process, or at least I haven't read up enough as to what the process entails for it to like. Mean it's like something about existing with partially in the Shadowlands or something like that. Like you become an entity that can freely travel back and forth. That's why in that one reading, which I forgot the name of the reading, when Sylvanas offs herself, um, the Valkyr freely travel. Like people describe what Sylvanas went through as like hell, like it's this unique thing, and I don't think it's unique at all. because according to the reading, the Valkyr are like, oh, let's go ahead and holler at her. So they all just visit her, and then they have a chat with her while she's wandering around this thing of nothingness. And they're like, hey, you want to come back and save your people because they're gonna get fucked up if you don't come back. And so she did. So the Valkyrie can freely go as they please. I don't know. It doesn't appear that Sylvanas is interested in that power, though. It looks like from after hanging around with them so long, she would have asked at some point.
I would think so, unless maybe even enslaving Aer could have been a way for her to do that to herself. If, say, like, for example, if a Valkyr couldn't make another Valkyr, like, I don't know exactly how this lore works, but as I would think potentially, like her enslavement of Aer, a way to help her save her people, would not only give her the would not only give her like not the Queen Valkyr, of course that's Helya, but would give her like one of the head Valkyr, could give her the power to do the same thing if she were interested.
Yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me at some point if Sylvanas once again goes for tries to seek some sort of power from, like, she tried to get it from Helya. That didn't work. That didn't quite work out. She tried to get it from Aer, and Greymane stopped her. What a jerk. Um, she could go to Odin. She could possibly go to the Lich King as well to maybe get that sort of opportunity to create her own Valkyrie and otherwise have that big old factory of hers up and running.
Huh. Man, the story and character progression that Blizzard is taking right now is migraine inducing. Like I can understand a little bit how like Accolon's struggling a little bit to make some content. Dude, I feel it. Cuz like to try to put together ideas like this and then make them into a video that doesn't make you sound rambly and ridiculous, cuz I've had that problem. Like I've done like 3-hour recordings. They ended up totally trash. I had to throw them away because I couldn't even follow what I was saying. Like the ideas get flowing so fast and kind of fluidly in your head. I can't even keep up with my own brain when I'm trying to get them across. Because then when I start thinking about one point, then that helps. Then I most of the time will end up discovering another or thinking about another way that could make more sense. Oh my god, it gets almost infuriating sometimes because there's so much editing that would have to be done to even make it worth it, like partially worth it. Then I just want to throw it away.
The challenge with doing lore based kinds of videos and speculation, and again, the reason why I only go so deep is exactly as you say, is because there's so many different directions that the lore can go, even if we use the best sources that we can come up with. And that's why some content creators will go for really, really vague things and just run with it. And they'll take they'll take that thread and they'll pull as hard as they can and see what unravels. I try not to. I try to keep things with like what seems kind of reasonable and fun and all that. But the other difficult thing is that uh, the World of Warcraft, the game and between the books, the game, and and everything, there's only so much of a foundation that we can build upon when it comes to uh, putting it all together. Like I was talking about just now, the whole thing on why I doubt what so many people don't doubt, that Sylvanas fears hell, this feeling of like nothingness. But I think that's correct or I think that's incorrect. I'm sorry, because according to the reading, the Valkyr can freely travel through. It's not this absolute hell, unique hell that Sylvanas or that people think it is. It's just another place that Valkyr can come to and extract people as they need to. Um, it's tough because there's so many different sources to draw upon when we want to come to all these different conclusions. And I can see why people are frustrated about there not having all the explanations done in game, but that makes it boring too. It limits the ability for us to understand, if it all just comes from the game.
I mean, exactly. Like it's really hard to make speculative content on games like Mass Effect, for example, because most of the like all of the story progression happens in that game. all the story progression that you know is going to happen up until what's going to come next happened in the game and in front of your face. If you pay any attention, it's really easy story to follow. The only thing there is to speculate on is what's coming next. But with a game like World of Warcraft, there's so much that they've done, so many years that they've been continuing it, so many books they've written. It gets to a point like, holy shit, after these retcons, like the way that they've changed so much lore all the way back, maybe they changed some of this lore to play off of other lore to make it all make more sense, almost the way that they did with Illidan. I didn't have a huge appreciation for the way that they retconned Illidan's story, you know, actually for the same reason Apocalypse did, because I was that Illidan did nothing wrong dude, just the same, you know, well before like well before Legion. I felt that way during Black Temple. It makes me think that maybe some of this stuff could have just been so easily overlooked just because you're focused on the immediate retcons and not the way that those retcons can affect other things and can continue a story for something that hasn't been changed just by adding a little bit into it.
It's just a big ass story. And like you said, like we can compare it to something like Mass Effect, which has its own huge story, but that's all written in one shot. It's not like this
Exactly.
ongoing 15 something year sort of deal, or at least, well, the Mass Effect series is admittedly extremely long, but they're allowed to not have to produce another chapter of the story every, you know, 3 to 6 months or so. It's been a constantly moving story, and that makes it tough. Um, and I, for one, appreciate other MMOs such as Final Fantasy 14, which I hear do a pretty good job of putting the story together. But they do have really long and involved cutscenes too. So there's that. There's definitely that to factor. Or it can be something like freaking Metal Gear Solid. Do I really want to watch that much of a cutscene before I do a limited amount of gameplay before I watch another incredibly lengthy cutscene? So that way, the entirety of the story is laid out for me. It could.
To
That's
me,
just
that just
not
feels
what
so
Blizzard
not
wanted to do.
interactive, though.
It's not. Some, there are many of us who don't enjoy just watching a movie. They want to play a game, and I think Final Fantasy does a decent job of keeping the players inserted into that game. But it almost feels kind of ham-fisted that they're forced to be part of every little scene when they don't have to be. Like, do I really do I, the Alliance champion, need to be in Anduin's room when Willis dies and I get to see Anduin's anguish? Do I really give a shit to stand here right now? When am I going to kill the next thing? Oh, I'm not going to fight anything in this entire Before the Storm chapter patch. What the fuck? This is weak. So not all the time does the story of Warcraft have to be something in game that we have to be a part of. This is just what Blizzard designed, and it has its flaws for sure. There are inconsistencies, and in my opinion, breaking up the War of Thorns into both a pre-launch event as well as a couple of cutscenes, as well as a book that we still haven't seen yet,
Very
is
good point.
kind of doo doo. I think that could have been delivered a little bit better. I think that digitally, the Elegy and A Good War Book should have all came out. All this stuff should have came out kind of simultaneously, so we can soak all this stuff in.
Right? Instead of spreading it out so much, because now when I go to read the next book, I'm definitely going to have to read Before the Storm again, because I want to be able to pick up all the connecting information that I possibly can, especially because I'm going to try to make some content on it.
It also makes it tough that even though we still haven't seen the Elegy and A Good War Book, that that folks like Wowhead have. So they've read it and they've given their analysis as well as their opinions on it. So it seems a little like I was saying during my weekly, I feel a little bit salty and envious about it because it feels like the message is being skewed before everyone gets a chance to even read the book. People are reacting to it now, before having even read it, and I don't think that is fair to the people that wrote the book.
I think I can't remember who. Hang on, let me find it. Somebody mentioned something. Oh yeah, it was Zombie. Zombie said, "Well, now we have a real writer, not to mention the one who did the books in the helm. Let's hope angry fanboys don't chase her away while she's still getting used to the water." It would definitely be difficult to put yourself in a position of like a primary story writer for a game like World of Warcraft, because man, the nerds get fucking angry when you make a change that they do not like.
Well, we've seen like throughout last week that there are people that are just lit
Yeah,
at
dude.
Christy Golden for what's going on, and I
Fucking
think it's
in-game
totally
protests.
well. I don't mind the protests. I mind like the personal talk, the personal insults, the threats, and all that stuff against her and other staff. I think it's totally uncalled for, absolutely unnecessary. And if you want to protest by dropping shoulders, go ahead. It's clean. It's kind of wholesome, but it's not threatening, and that's totally fine if you want to protest that way. But but to go the whole personal attack routes, nah, I'm not cool with that. Oh
That's
wait, hold on. ChaosLance books are now to download. Wait, really? Am I wrong now? Ah, shit. 29 minutes. Well, okay, I take all that back. That said, that said, I still don't like that it was released early. I think they should have thrown an NDA over at Wowhead and just held on to like their opinions and speculation and released it right now instead of a week ago.
right.
Motherfucker, now I want to read this. Yep, they're both out. Ooh-wee.
Hey, Chaos made a really good point. Funny thing, she wasn't even involved in the majority of the story writing for Teldrassil. That is very true. She was
Yeah,
not
like
super involved in that part.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure that well, not to say I'm not going to assume anything, but uh, if she was a part of anything, it's not because she wrote it from scratch. I think that uh, it's folks like Alex Afrasiabi, who the creative director. It's folks like him who give the general direction. Hey, this is what's going to happen. Um, Sylvanas is going to piss everybody off because I don't know, let's burn down Teldrassil, make it happen, and then from there, folks such as Christy Golden, along with numerous other writers, fill in all the blanks.
Huh. I feel like I wonder how much research that Christy Golden decided to do on the previous lore of WoW before she was willing to take on a position like that, because it
Well,
seems like she really knows her shit.
if I recall correctly, I might be wrong on this, but before she would talk with Blizzard about certain things. They would hint at her, "Hey, this is what's going on," yada yada yada. When she was writing the previous books, when she signed up with Blizzard and became an actual Blizzard employee, she's now the on the inside. She has access to a whole lot more than she otherwise wouldn't have had access to before becoming an employee of Blizzard. So that's an important distinction that she's an employee now. Regarding her Twitter, she says whatever she wants. All her statements are her own, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because she still write because even though she is an employee of Blizzard, she still writes other books. She writes books for other franchises like Star Wars, I believe, is one that comes to mind.
Yes, yes,
The
sir.
Yeah. So the thing is that she has inside information now, things that we otherwise wouldn't know. So she might know things that are going to happen in the future. She might know context that's eventually going to come up that we don't know about now, and Blizzard is probably telling her, hey, you know what? This is the direction that we're going to go with these certain characters. We want to start dropping little things like this is a potentially incorrect example, but things like the Divine Bell. That's something that was brought up in the Before the Storm book, written by Christy Golden as an employee of Blizzard. We haven't heard anything about the Divine Bell before this and since. So this might drop in again. It might not. But that's one of those small examples where her knowledge and inside information pays off.
Silver Ram, to answer your question, he said she's played the game since the start, didn't she? Yes, Christy Golden is on record as being a very long time Warcraft fan.
Nerd. She plays Alliance, right? She absolutely must be playing
She
Alliance.
has to play Alliance. There's no other way. I wouldn't believe it otherwise. Dude, I'm flying around in Silithus right now looking at the wound, and like, I just keep thinking, I'm telling you, Cthulhu's gonna have some relevance again because he's just kind of getting stabbed by the Azurite veins that have now forced their way up.
I can see that happening. I
Like,
would like to see a return of Cthulhu because I never fought him. I was a big bitch in Vanilla WoW. Did pretty much no raiding, so it would be cool to see a visit to the first old god that we encounter in the games.
oh man, those are some of the best raid encounters ever. I only got to kill Cthulhu one time, but that was probably one of the most exciting moments of my life because that was a hard boss, dude. That was a rough experience.
Yeah, well, no, all I did was like a little bit of molten core, and like that was it. Then I was like just totally turned off from raiding. I'm like, this is dumb. I can't. How do people do this? And then now I do what I do now, but it's my own way.
My guild literally never even got past the suppression room. We couldn't find enough good rogues.
I have no idea what the suppression room is.
A rogue requirement. You need like 6, bare minimum. They have to
Yeah.
stealth around a bunch of traps.
Oh, you're talking about Black Wing
Blackwing Lair.
Descent? Oh,
Blackwing
Black
Lair,
Wing
yeah.
Lair, my bad, my bad.
It's after the, I believe it's after the second boss, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I do transmog runs. I at least know that. I at least know that part.
You sure chief and make plans? Zombie said, "Go bow down to your snore chief while she plans her next atrocity." Paco said, "Not an atrocity if it's
Damn.
against night elves. Nobody likes night elves."
Ooh.
I don't like gnomes. I like night elves, okay, but gnomes can fuck off. I don't like
No,
gnomes at all. They bother me. Their voices fucking irritate me. You don't even know.
I
Ugh.
think I don't like night elves. I
You
think
don't
they're
like night elves? Why is that?
no. I didn't like night elves before. I didn't like them now. I didn't like them before because in vanilla you can I don't know, maybe my memory is not correct anymore, but I remember night elf hunters, they were able to stealth and they were still able to sick pets on people while still
Yeah,
stealth.
with their shadow meld.
Yeah, and that would piss me off because I wouldn't be able to find the freaking night elf, and that'd be it. I think that's why I just don't like night elves.
Zombie called Alpaca a racist because he said no one cares about night elves, and Alpaca said whiny little tree huggers. Oh my god.
Fight, 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 fight.
Throwing shade, guys.
So you excited for tomorrow?
Very, very much so, man. I cannot wait. I plan on streaming it all.
Yeah, that's the plan too. I wanna take a look at this overflowing toilet. That's what I decided to call Undercity, an overflowing toilet.
I mean, that is pretty much what it is. Not even pretty much. That is exactly what it is. I mean, there's really no other distinction. You're literally living in the sewer. So, what distinction is there?
No, but I can't wait. I think that going in character and just going with the enthusiasm of the Horde and Alliance, I will be excited to see Alliance get like their to get their swings in and get to kill off some Hordes and do whatever it is that they do, whatever the heck Jaina's gonna do to help the Alliance get into the Undercity, and I'm really excited to see like the two cinematics that come out from that. Like, what's Jaina going to do, and what does Sylvanas do when we approach the throne room? I'm going to be really excited to see that.
Oh man, me too. I'm really excited. I can't. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to contain myself with the excitement waiting to see what that hidden cutscene this entire time's been.
It's probably going to be a fraction of what I'm feeling right now because I'm looking at the LG and a good war browser things right now, and I'm like, fuck. Like once I'm done, I'm going to grab my salad, come back upstairs, and then just start reading the crap out of both of these books so I can prep a kind of like the from the hip reaction. Because to be honest, I really want. I have a feeling. This is just a feeling, and I have all respect for folks like Perculia from what the Wildhead admin and to Novel, but I really feel like they slanted on their analysis of the two books. So I'm really eager to dive into it and give my own thoughts, or to validate and or to validate their opinions.
I was thinking the same thing. I didn't really look. I haven't really looked too much into into Novel's analysis of it. I listened to it over like two or three times. I mean, to be honest, sometimes I have a little bit of trouble understanding some of the stuff he says. That's personal. Um,
Oh, I haven't watched it. I only read the article.
I mean, he had a really good analysis of it. I think that it would be more kind of proving some of his points. The problem in my eyes of it was that there was some bases that he definitely should have gone more into, and I almost felt like he was kind of holding back some of them.
I think there might. I mean, for all we know, there might have been things that Blizzard told them to not talk about, which I think would be cool. That's what's making me antsy about looking at these. And well, I'm gonna have another busy day today.
Right? Dude, Apocalypse said night elves are just regressed trolls. This is some killer shade, man.
Damn.
Yeah, right? Regressed trolls. Oh my. I mean, I guess the only thing worse is to be a goblin, because then you're kind of a regressed gnome. And what's worse than a gnome? A green, ugly gnome with sharp teeth and pointy ears.
Now, zombie for context, the horde version of Tomorrow's Scenario does have us defending the place from SI7 rogues.
Really?
Just to point that out.
SI7 rogues, huh? Hmm.
Just pointed it out. Just to counterbalance, you know. I'm one of those. I'm one of those that unfortunately kind of embraced the idea of using whataboutisms and all that. I try not to, but I fall into that trap a lot.
I do too. I'm guilty as hell about it. Sometimes I just can't help it. Like, if it's sitting there in the back of my mind, I'm like, but what about? And it just kind of comes out.
Hmm.
I try
I
not
mean,
to.
I'm thinking. I mean, the whole thing with the plague stuff is to me is telling because I'm like because now I think to myself, okay, yeah, Sylvanas used like the blight. Was she inspired by a certain event? Hmm.
Aha, yeah, that's a pretty good point. Think that we're looking at like a Lich Queen dealio?
Oh no, I'm just saying that she was inspired by Malfurion's wall of Death Wall, and she's just jealous, and she's like, "Well, I haven't got this ghetto ass green shit to use,
This
but I'm gonna
ghetto
use
ass
it."
green shit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she's not using those ghetto ass demolishers, which she should use, because they could probably take out all the damn that alliance ships that are landing in northern Tirisfal. But
No, Diesel.
details, right?
It's okay, buddy. All the details, dude. I really like the way that you put how like the specific distinction between like what Sylvanas is doing versus like what the Lich King versus what the Lich King did. Like the Arthas just straight up and outright desecrated souls. Like Syndragosa and Sylvanas are both fantastic examples, and they even showed us a lot more detail about the way that Sylvanas saw the situation that she experienced with Arthas, the way that her tears were kind of burned onto her soul that way, so that she would eternally have to see her pain, or other people would too. At least that's the way I saw it. Um, Syndragosa, of course, was horrifically distraught with the loss of Malagos, and he used that pain and malice that remained in her soul kind of against her.
Yeah, she wasn't a happy camper, huh?
No, she wasn't. I mean, especially when you like it's just such a sad story, dude. The story of Syndragosa is such a sad one. Like that's her roar, the roar that we hear. It's her cry out, her last cry out to Malagos as she was dying, because she just couldn't make it to Dragonblight. She wanted to cry out to him one more time to see if he would come.
Nah, he was too busy with his tail tucked between his legs,
Right?
mulling over whatever it was from way back when.
I don't know though. I don't know whose story would be sadder between Sylvanas and Syndragosa. I mean, Sylvanas is pretty fucked. Like,
Well, Sylvanas has been around longer than Sintragosa
come
has
here.
been. That's so there's that. But considering, I don't know, considering what Sylvanas like, what Arthas put Sylvanas through in the campaign to pretty much wreck most of Silvermoon, that's got to be pretty traumatic, especially because unlike Sindragosa, Sylvanas was freed from from that control, leaving her to reflect on those memories. She still remembers that shit, and she's no longer in under that sort of influence, as far as we know, at least.
No, she's not. I, I mean, the way it seems is once she broke the Lich King's hold, there was no other influence that can whisper to her the way, in that kind of fashion. I mean, the light and the void seem like they kind of can't fuck with the dead anyway. Atish asked John, "What do you think about Sourfang?" Now, I answered that. Soul and I went into some pretty good detail about that earlier. To make a really long story short, it basically came down to I feel like I actually lost a little bit more respect for Sourfang at that point, because not even respect so much, like I feel for him. You can understand the pain of his loss, but like I don't think he would be a reliable war chief at all. And what I saw in that cinematic solidified that idea in my mind, because you can tell how done he is. He's old, he's done, he's worn out, he's tired of fighting. And that's why he kind of was about to go all suicidal and charge into the Alliance front lines. It just kind of bothered me. Apocalypse said hashtag Malfurion is bad as Sargeras. Oh boy.
Damn.
For real though. He's a Sith Lord, dude. Malfurion's a Sith Lord. We all just need to accept the truth, okay?
I don't think he's as bad as Sargeras. I think he's worse because he took an axe to the back and went down.
At least he didn't take an arrow to the knee.
Axe to the back, though, I'd argue that's pretty devastating, though. You
Right?
know,
What's going on, Super J? Thanks for stopping by, bud.
I hear a lot of I know it's not serious, but it almost offends me when people are saying that Zakan should be eventually a war chief.
Okay. What do you have to say about that?
What the fuck? Are you? It's
What the fuck?
it's
No,
whatever.
that's a good
It's
response.
whatever. It's what I call. It's what I recall. And I feel, or at least I trust, that it's not a serious thought. But I'm just going to respond to it anyway. It's like it's a ludicrous idea. It's probably alliance players that are actually asking for Zakan to be war chief. I mean, granted, he's popular, and I think that he made himself to be a fairly likable, if not slightly obnoxious character, which I think is what's part of being a likable character in franchises like these. But the idea of him becoming freaking war chief, you need, experience to become a war chief. Imagine how the other faction leaders would feel if, aside from maybe Galloway's,
Gallywix's
if
opinion
a
don't mean shit.
yeah, because it doesn't mean shit. But imagine if freaking this shaman, or well, okay, not to look down on shaman, but this inexperienced troll who, by the time that he might be elevated to war chief, would hardly has any battles in his belt to have charge of, one of the two great factions on Azeroth. That makes no sense and is total, like, I don't know, fanboyism at its best.
Zombie made a really good point. Zakan is a meme and people like memes. That's literally the only reason that people suggest that.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess
that's
you're
it.
right. I guess you're. I mean, there. shoot, I'm a little sad that the whole basic campfire for War Chief didn't really take off again. Now it's this guy.
Yeah, right? Like all of a sudden, I don't even know necessarily how I feel about Sylvanas as a war chief. She's just, I mean, I think she's actually going to do a really solid job with her level of, I don't necessarily want to say benevolency, but like like hardcore dedication. That's the word I was looking for. She's extremely dedicated to the cause of her people. I hope that that expands to the horde as a whole, which it seems like it has. At least to the eye. There could always be some kind of bullshit that she's planning in the background. You never know. That's just kind of how that stuff works sometimes.
I think she's definitely delivering on one of the core aspects of being a war chief, and that's war. She's definitely delivering on that, and to that, I am not upset about it. We could have used an aggressor, and I think that, or I don't think, I pretty much know that in order to really sell the Battle for Azeroth as an expansion that highlights a war between open war between the factions, you've got to have you got to have some aggressor that pisses hella people off, and this was the best way to go about it. So I have no regrets on what Sylvanas. This is me talking from a development standpoint, not exactly as like a Horde or Alliance fan, but this is the best way that Blizzard could have pulled this off by starting shit, and I think they have definitely delivered.
They have. It's been fantastic. I mean, when I really think about it, I couldn't even imagine the amount of potential character progression that could be missed out on, like as a whole. When you think about like if they did make it some kind of old god bullshit that caused the tree to burn down, but like the reason itself, to what Apocalypse said, there is a reason. The reason she burned the tree is to kill their hope, man. Like to trash their hope, to trash everything that the Night Elves seem to have left. I can't remember the name of the Night Elf that she did this to, but like after she said that you'll never destroy our hope, she turned her face to the tree. She said, "Watch me." Turn her face to the tree, and had it burned. Like that is such a disrespectful slap to the face. Like she did that for such an important reason. It's to really get across the point that she is truly heartless, that she has no feeling. That the only reason she did that was just out of pure spite because that night elf told her that her plan failed, and Sylvanas wanted to just basically say fuck you and make her point clear that it didn't fail, and I'll show you what losing your hope really is. That's the way that I see it, at least.
No, I mostly agree with that. I still feel that the rest of everything that had happened up to that point definitely has got to play into it as well. I don't see her like if the War of Thorns turned out all good for Sylvanas, there was no death wall in the way. There was no week long thing of daily quest. Like it was just a beeline straight to the north, slaughtered everyone right before her. Malfurion is killed, and if they got to that point on the beach when when Delaran's like, "Oh, you can kill us, but you can't destroy hope," I could have easily imagined Sylvanas being like, "Oh, you want to bet?" And then she'll just hold up Malfurion's head. How about this, girl? Woo! And then and then I don't know, Delaran will like throw up or some shit like that. And then she'll be like, "Keep this one alive. I want her to watch." And then they'll start laying siege to Darnassus. I can see that absolutely. I think that by that point, Sylvanas is just irked, and that she could have been set off, and she did. That's simply what happened. But if the War of Thorns campaign went exactly the way that she wanted it to, Darnassus would still be standing today.
Yes, it would be. Darnassus would not. I mean, I don't even know that it would necessarily be standing because they were definitely going to lay siege to Darnassus as it was. They were definitely going to destroy Darnassus. The question of if the tree was going to burn, of course, is relative. It may have ended up that way due to any other amount of reasons. Like, there's an endless amount of reasons that could have ended up setting her off or pissing her off in a manner that she's just like, fuck it, burn it. I don't care anymore. Fuck you people.
Yeah, I mean, she was mad, but it didn't come out of nothing. It's just Delaran's words were the
Were the
last straw.
Defiance.
Yeah, it was just the last straw. It's like, okay, you know what? Fuck this. Burn it. Burn it. And like that was it. But it like I said, it didn't come out of nowhere. And it baffles it baffles and upsets me because to see people not acknowledge the War of Thorns campaign because it's also a failure in part of Blizzard for not delivering on the story that they could have said or that they could have told because it made players feel a little more disconnected from the campaign because it was just a couple of quests and a few dailies and such here and there without any other buildup. It was part one and then the end. So I think that Blizzard has a few lessons to learn when it comes to the delivery on that story. I have a feeling that by the time I finish reading this book, I'm going to come to a similar conclusion to Perk and to Novel that, man, this shit should have been released sooner. What the hell were they thinking? Um, but uh, but it is what it is at this point. This is what we've got, and about 2 weeks from now, we're not gonna care about any of this because we're gonna be busy like
Yeah,
leveling.
dude, the relevance
And
is gonna be gone. Dude, fuck that. The relevance is gonna be gone tomorrow.
yeah,
Everybody's gonna be so focused on the new shit that's
yeah,
coming out
yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah. As much we are, I'm having a lot of fun talking about this sort of stuff. But I know that like in a couple days or weeks or whatever, this is gonna be like nothing. Nothing's gonna matter. The lore talk is going to end, and I'm going to be talking about, guides to get through, world quests and all that stuff. So, but that's just how it goes. That's the life of a content creator.
Yeah, man, and I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna be going from lore speculation and trying to predict where things are gonna go, back to attempting to make guides to get through specific levels of Mythic Plus content, certain boss fights, and techniques for different tank perspectives. I really enjoy doing that.
Yeah, we're gonna be diving into a lot of that stuff for sure.
Oh, Soul, what are you gonna do with yourself, man? Mythic Plus seems like it's gonna be the most efficient way to gear yourself for raid progression. How are you gonna live?
Considering the way that my team and my roster how we operate and the pace that the kind of leisurely pace that we go, I'm not worried one bit. I'm gonna go the route that I usually go to. I'm gonna do like the minimum requirement, maybe try to have fun with Mythic Plus, try to build up a community over with my horde community and see if I can get kind of like regular folks that are on for doing some runs every now and then, and like little things like that. But I I I rush quests, I rush reputations, and that sort and that sort of thing. But I never ever rush gear. That's not what I chase.
I actually in your community just it was yesterday or the day before I had a couple hours to play when I got home from like a 13 and a half hour day. I wanted to do a couple Keystone runs and none of my friends were online because it was real late. I just got on your community and I asked if anybody wanted to run some keys. I ended up getting three people's responses and all of them were really solid. Like we got a 17 Cathedral done and a 19 Eye of Azera. I'm pretty sure it was Eye of Azera. It was either Eye
Oh,
or
oh, very
Bolt.
cool. Very cool. Yeah, so I'm probably going to be talking it up, on the weeklies or during the streams, as we get closer, or yeah, as we're getting closer to where mom talks. Hey, this is what we're gonna do with the community. We're just gonna like do some chill runs and all that stuff. I mean, I'm not gonna worry about it too much because we're not gonna get Mythic Plus until whatever the heck day it is, 3 weeks after launch. That's when keystones are going to open up. So that's when I'm. So by then, I hope to have communicated this out, and we can get some healthy runs going with people.
Agreed. I I love the interaction that the communities have brought around. I'm a part of Accolon's Discord community. I'm not Discord. BattleNet community, and I found a couple of interesting characters to play with over there too. I actually met a couple of new friends. I even got a new guild member out of. Actually, the guild member came out of your community. When I think about it,
Oh, very nice.
it was definitely an interesting experience. I wanted to start one myself because I really like the way that it ties the way that it helps tie people together in game instead of tying them together like on a separate platform like YouTube. It brings the YouTube into the game.
Yeah, it's cool that I can just talk directly with people who are already online, already possibly like ready to go if they wanted to. hop on and do stuff together. Like it's just right there and ready to go. Or otherwise, um, I've gotten a couple of people to at least say hi, even during streams. I have my community chat visible for other people to see, and I'll read off stuff that people say there too, in case they're like doing stuff in the game, they want to say something, and they don't want to tab over to Twitch and type something out. They can just type something into the community thing, and I'll be able to see it.
I really liked the way that you integrated that. I thought that was a really neat way of doing it. Because I kept wondering, because I was just listening to your to one of your raid streams the other night. I wasn't watching because I was trying to write myself a script, and I was like, "Who the hell is he responding to?" Because I had the chat open on my phone, and I was listening on my computer. I was like, "Who is he responding to?" I didn't see any of these messages going across in chat, and then I looked at the stream itself. I was like, "Oh shit, that's from his community, isn't it?"
Surprise.
That was interesting. How did you get it to display like that?
When you create your community, and what it's going to do is it's kind of ghetto. It just creates another channel for you, and then from there, I just edit the channel display to have like a certain text color to it, make a new window,
Right.
and just drag that window wherever I need it to be, somewhere visible on screen, so that way people on stream that happen to be looking can at least take a look at it.
Dude, that's wild. That's a really surprisingly simple way of setting it up too. I'm really glad that it wasn't some kind of extra crazy widget stuff with fucking Streamlabs, because I'm
Yeah,
already
yeah,
struggling to
yeah,
figure all
yeah.
that out.
Nothing crazy like that. It's like all in game. So I think that part is cool that people can just interact with me like directly. Thankfully, no one has done like I don't know middle finger ASCIIs or boobs and nothing like that. So everything's been wholesome enough at least.
Yeah, thus far. Let's see if it stays that way. But it seemed like it's gone pretty well so far.
Yeah, I'm happy with it so far. Like I know that because I personally am not on too much, um, at least at the moment. The interaction that I have directly with the community isn't as high as I would want it to be. But once I shoot next week, when hell like a little over a little over a week from today, right now, that's when the expansion is going to launch, 3 p.m. Pacific over on my side. So I'm gonna be on, and I'm gonna try to marathon this whole thing up to max level, and then I'll pass the fuck out.
Dude, that was exactly what I was planning on doing too. Just gonna go and go and go, do it live, try to keep
Yeah,
as much energy in myself as possible.
yeah, it's gonna be rough. I'm gonna try my best to have a kind of a prep guide for people that are interested in doing the whole marathon leveling sort of deal. It's not going to be a very serious video. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a little bit of satire laced with some actual facts and maybe a few helpful tips here and there. But it's mostly just for me to fuck around. This is it, dude. This is the last stretch. This is the home stretch. There we go. This is the home stretch of the expansion, and I just want to put out something fun and silly this week to entertain some people with. So it might be trashy videos that people are going to see. Beware, but it's going to be fun for me at least, and that's all that matters. Because fuck you guys.
That is exactly all that matters, man. I mean, what's the fucking point of doing it if you don't enjoy it? Fuck everybody else's opinion.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I was telling. That's what I was saying to you on your stream the other day. People, like, when it comes to people who are real dedicated fans of yours, like myself and even a couple of other people in this chat, like, I enjoy your content for your opinion on it. I don't just enjoy it because it's WoW content or whatever. Like, I was drawn into your videos because your opinions are always very sound, and you try to find as much evidence as you can put together. You get it across really effectively. It's just a very different form. Like, to me, it almost strikes me as like it's really almost professional seeming, the way that you handle it. Yeah, you present yourself really well. Regardless, you said yourself you have issues, keeping eye contact with the camera and stuff, but who doesn't? Like, your editing quality, the really hilarious back and forth satire with you and Bob. Like, that was a freaking genius idea, man. Your videos themselves, like, it's about what you decide to put out there. You're gonna get attention, you're gonna get views whatever it is that you are trying to get out of that video, just because you have people who would want to hear what you have to say about it or want to see you take part in that. Just the same way that people will sit there and watch you stream for a couple hours because they're interested in what you're doing and what you're saying.
Damn, I'm glad I'm not on camera. Otherwise, you'd see like this big ass boner that I have right now. Jeez,
Right?
dude. I appreciate it though, man. Like, thank you. I know that it was partially thanks to the interactions that you and I have had that helped you even get started
Very much
with
so.
becoming a content creator and a streamer and someone who simply wants to participate in the community. And that's something that I love seeing. It's cool. It's great when to see that I inspire some folks to want to get started. It's great to talk with people that might have a very strong opinion and at the very least get them to be like, "Hey, you know what? You didn't really change my mind, but you had me thinking about it and I appreciate that." Those are huge wins in my book. I'm not here to change people's minds. I'm just here to get people to not be stuck with a certain thought and simply refuse to listen to any possible opposing opinions.
That is exactly the way that I feel about it. Like, I want to at least let my opinion get out, like, let people hear what I have to say about it, or to maybe see a completely different perspective. And I mean, yeah, if I'm able to get an opinion across to you that you enjoy and you agree with, and that is able to maybe change your pattern of thinking on the matter, well, awesome. I mean, I'm glad that you agree with the position that I took on that particular topic, but that is definitely not my goal. I have no interest in changing people's minds. I just feel like the victory in itself is the fact of getting the confidence to make your opinion public and to put yourself out there and make yourself susceptible to things like really serious internet toxicity, which is something all of us as content creators have dealt with more than once.
There was just a really brief, pretty much a nothing exchange between Novel and I. I think it was yesterday uh, about bringing up different opinions and how some people just aren't interested in listening to other people's opinions. It's a fascinating thing. There are many out there who watch a certain thing, like the Warbringers video, and they will look for a response, not just a response to the video, but a response that doesn't challenge them, a response that agrees with them, and they're like, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Someone's validated my feelings. Upvote." And they look at someone's opposing viewpoints and be like, "Oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Not this guy." Downvote, and it creates a very skewed, very polarized opinion between members of our community and every community. We've seen it in certain political circles. We've just seen it in life that people seek validation more than they seek to have their viewpoints challenged. And I don't mind being wrong, especially when I speculate. I know that in large swaths, I'm wrong about so much of the stuff that I talk about, and that the opinions that I have are simply that they're just my perspective. They're partially how I feel based on facts that I see. The only thing I really get anal over is just getting the facts right. You can have whatever opinion you want as long as your facts are straight, and if they're not, then I will very unapologetically correct you. And then from there, if you still feel the same way, cool. But I just want to clarify that, such and such and yabba dabba 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 dabba.
I really like the way that Accolon put it, because he seems to see it as the same way. Opinions are like assholes, and everybody's got one. And they also all stink. Nobody's opinion is necessarily the correct one. Everybody's got their own view on it. So what I don't understand is the necessity that some people have to be toxic, like directly and aggressively toxic to anybody who has an opinion that even slightly goes askew from their own. If it isn't perfectly parallel to them, then they'll just totally put you down. They'll trash you, make you feel, try their hardest to make you feel like shit almost, just because you disagree with them. To me, I mean, that's the worst part of it. I really, really do enjoy when people have an appreciation of all opinions. Like that's the kind of person that I am when I'm browsing YouTube and I find a new content creator. Like even if I don't agree with it, there's been plenty of stuff that Accolon has done, even though he's one of my favorite content creators. There's plenty of stuff that he's done and said in videos that I completely disagree with, but that's his choice. That's his opinion. I still like the video. I still leave a comment, and I say what I have to say about it, and he always takes it, really, I don't know, really gently. He takes it with a grain of salt. He thinks about it. He considers your opinion back just the same. Like the reciprocation like that is what keeps the conversation. It keeps the content flowing. Because if you don't have a conversation, if you just have toxicity, then what the fuck are you going to make content about? How angry people are? Like that would suck.
Yeah, but they're pretty successful too.
That's a very good point. They are pretty successful most of the time.
It's mean. It's mean because it almost makes an example. You can almost make an argument and say that, oh, the popular popular channels or popular thoughts or whatnot, they come from sources that don't encourage you to think. They just want you to listen and agree, and like that's it. It's just to fan the fire. People, some folks just don't want to think about it. They don't want to be challenged because that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. But at the same time, with a little bit of effort, you can come out of it knowing a little bit more. And while your opinion might not change, you at least understand what other folks are thinking too. And that's something that I always appreciate.
Dude, that's the best part about YouTube and Twitch to me, is to be able to explore everybody else's opinions. And I'm actually usually out there to try to find an opinion that differs from my own, because I love to hear what other people have to say that isn't similar. I don't like the idea of everybody working on a similar wavelength and everybody having to think the same. That just feels really, really fake to me. Like in no reality could there sensibly be a similar opinion from on one specific topic from everybody. There are so many millions of people that play this game. Like, for fuck's sake, why can't people just accept that, like, not everybody's going to agree with you? Apocalypse made a very good point. When people go too deep, it becomes like a religion to them, and we all know what happens when you attack a religion. Like, it does almost seem to get to that point. Like, these people are so infatuated, and they get to a point of borderline obsessed sometimes, that it almost seems like they're emotionally devastated by the fact that you disagree with them on a specific point. And that, to me, is most of the problem.
I like to think of myself as more of one of those hardcore sports fans. You know,
Me too, bro.
if WoW was a sport and the Horde is the team, then I'm Team Horde fucking all the way. And whenever if the management sucks, if the team has a shitty season, if they end up trading players or if they lose players because of stupid stuff, guess what? I'm still a damn fan. I'm still gonna sport the shirt. I'm still gonna go to every game. I'm still gonna rock them. I'm still gonna save for the Horde and all that stuff. I'm not a fair weather fan. I'm not oh my god, the Horde are doing this. I'm gonna switch. This is it. Blizz. I can't believe you disenfranchised me like this. Hey, that's cool, bro, or lady. Y'all can do what you want, but that just underlines how what kind of fan I am and what kind of fan you are. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that that's who you are, and if you're gonna think yourself otherwise, then well, we define fan differently.
I mean, hell, you even see that same type of level of toxicity from one sports fan to another. Like, one of my best examples of this, my most recent employer, before I worked at that absolutely terrible pizza place that I shall not mention, Joe, he was a super good dude. He was a lifelong Browns fan, like lifelong. He every single season had season tickets. He had himself a couple years in a row got box seats and stuff like that. Dude was always wearing some kind of memorabilia. His truck was covered in stickers and stuff. But everybody knows that the Browns are terrible. Like, they honestly just kind of suck. Well, alrighty. You got any closing thoughts and opinions, my man?
Um, just that one I'm eager to read to get these two readings in, and I'm gonna try to produce something. It's probably not gonna be out until tonight, but I'm definitely excited to read through that stuff and give some reactions, and I'm super excited about tomorrow. The battle for Lorderon is tomorrow. It's what we've been waiting for a really long time. For some folks, much longer than they've been waiting for that tree to burn. So I'm super looking forward to it.
Me too, man. I'm really, really glad that you had time, that you had and made time to come and join me on my stream today. It really kept the conversation going. I thought we had a fantastic conversation.
It's always fun to talk with you, John. It's all good, man.
Oh, you know it, dude. Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good, man. Let's well, I'm gonna have lunch.
Well, all right. Thanks for stopping in, man. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on your
Uh,
stream tomorrow morning. I'll definitely be in
sure,
chat as
man.
always.
All right, man. Stay breezy.
You too, buddy. And that was Soulsobreezy, guys. As I'm sure almost all of you guys know Soul very well. He's a solid, fantastic content creator. I have a lot of respect for that man in a lot of ways. Like, very frankly, he's the like primary reason where I finally got the confidence to make content. I've been dreaming of being a YouTuber myself for years. Like, I've always wanted that for myself. I've always wanted to like put my opinion out there, as I've been a fan of this game for the last like 13 years of my life. And he encouraged me in such a way, gave me such good advice, pointed me in the direction of some really good softwares and stuff, gave me some editing tips, always giving feedback. Like, the dude's just, he's fantastic. So if any of you in this chat aren't already like subscribed to him or following him, I would highly suggest that you go to his channel and check it out. Like, there's not a thing about it that you would regret, in my opinion. Dude knows what he's talking about. Any other questions that chat wants to ask me before I have to get going? I'm about to have to go start making dinner. Wifey's gonna be home soon. She's had herself a long day. I'll see you later, Chaos. I'm glad that you stopped by, man. Thanks so much. It's greatly appreciated to have you guys stop by and say hi. What do you got plans for your days off? I actually plan on streaming the next 2 days. I'm going to stream tomorrow in the same time slot, and I'm going to stream Wednesday in the same time slot, too, because I have these next few days off. I don't know what else necessarily I'm going to do. I'm going to try to get my lady to go to the lake with me one more time before the weather starts getting way too cold to do any fun shit, and I have to sit inside all the time, you know. Other than that, I plan on being interactive with you guys over these next few days, because I've been working so much, like so many hours, that I just haven't had as much time as I really wish that I could to spend and interact and give you guys content. Exactly. I guess we got ourselves a time then, Apocalypse. Well, guys, I got to get going. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. And as always, have fun and be safe.